The Panthers got edged by the Lightning in Orlando in their neutral site game, but some new guys on the squad made an impression.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Wednesday, October 1st edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at MondoMan12. Follow the show anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. That is Jacob Winans joining me on today's edition of Winans Wednesday. Shout out to every day to come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Download the FanDuel app right now by visiting FanDuel.com to win $300 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. You can do that all on FanDuel. So, Panther fans, grateful to be back here once again on another edition of the show to discuss everything in the world of the Florida Panthers, including their preseason game from Orlando, Florida, which I was thankful to be in the building for. Although the Panthers did lose by a final score of 3-2, they did make it a game in the third period when they cut the Lightning deficit to 1 with early in the third period. Although the Panthers never led in this game, they fought until the end and started to control play, but it was 2 second period goals, 28 seconds apart. That was the separation, and Brandon Bussi got the start for the Florida Panthers, played the whole 60 minutes. It was a younger lineup for the Panthers in the neutral site game. And Jacob, the Brandon Bussi was outstanding on the night. Just when the Panthers were mostly caved in, they went to the box multiple times, including a 5-on-3, which they were able to score 10 seconds into the 5-on-3 thanks to Oliver Bjorkstrand. But the Panthers kept fighting. There were some of those saves that Bussi made, especially through screens, that he was just able to see the puck really well. Even though the Panthers gave up quite a few odd man rushes themselves, they were Bussi was still able to close the door quite a few times on the night.
Yeah, I think he's a guy who's competing, trying to take control of that third goalie job and be the starting guy there for the Charlotte Checkers. So it was important for him to get a good game under his belt. I thought he was really, really solid, especially given the lineup that he was had playing in front of him, mostly guys who are going to be in Charlotte this year. Kind of a preview of what that roster might end up looking like, and I thought he was fantastic. And I think the Panthers can feel pretty confident about their third goalie situation if that's what they're getting out of him. And the Panthers the past few years have just been super fortunate to have such a deep pool of good goalies, and right now it is no different. They've got Bussi, who played great game tonight, Cooper Black, who's developing and has the skill that you just can't teach, and the fact that he's 6'8", and he looked pretty solid at times against Carolina, and played has had a solid preseason. And then behind them, you've got Nurasimyuk, who's a young prospect who might spend some time in the ECHL, maybe the third goalie in the AHL, but they've definitely got some depth there. And I think Bussi might have a stranglehold on the G3 spot right now, but he definitely has earned it. He played a great game.
Yeah, and he had a .907 save percentage last year with the Providence Bruins, 277 GAA, even though GAA is more of a team stat based on how many shots you face versus and save percentage is more of the indicator, while Cooper Black played 17 games for the Charlotte Checkers. So more of a workload that he had versus what Cooper Black did with the Charlotte Checkers. And some of the saves that he was making, one on Zemus Gergensons with a screen in front. And here's also the thing. He's a right catch goaltender, so he was able to make that save a lot easier than if it were a left catch goaltender. And then the best save on the night, saving it for last, as the Panthers went to the box late in the third period on the Jack Devine delay of game call on hope I'm pronouncing this name correctly. Abruzesi for number 6 for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Just an outstanding save as they were working from the goal line to the slot, and just towards the end of that, he was able to still make the stop there. And the Panthers were taking a whole bunch of risk, and also kind of whiffing on the puck a few times, even in their D zone, like the goal that one of the goals that the Lightning score, Colton Heward whiffs on the puck, and then it's an easy lane to the net, and then the middle was a little open for the Lightning as Jacob Peltier scored on that give and go return feed for the Bolts there. But I also thought that the Panthers really truly stood up to the Lightning, because the amount of times that there was the collisions around the net, I counted 4 times where there was those knocking into the net. One of them was the Panthers knocking a Lightning player into their own net, which the Panthers were called for a penalty for. But I thought that the Panthers were standing up great to guys like the Boris Kachuks, the Jack Finleys of the world against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So, and even Paul Maurice spoke about it post game, about just the fact that this team stands up for each other and they treat each other well, and that even proved in an exhibition game like this.
Yeah, it's a culture right now. The Panthers have sort of established this culture of protecting your teammates, being there for your teammates. And you kind of know that these games against Tampa, regardless of who's wearing the uniform, they get heated, they get intense. We even saw it in the prospect tournament. Hunter St. Martin had a hit from behind, boarded somebody, ends up in a huge fight, and there were a handful of fights in that game. And that's a prospect game. That's not even preseason. And now you're seeing preseason. We all know what happened a few years ago. The preseason game in Orlando that probably broke a record for most penalty minutes in a preseason game. We were both in attendance for that one. That one was crazy and had a lot more NHL players in it, but this is no different. It's kind of a situation where, if you're wearing a Panther sweater and you see a Lightning sweater on the other side, it doesn't matter who's wearing it. It's going to be a war, and I think the players who are able to step up and meet that challenge, they open the eyes of the coaching staff, because the Panthers are a team that if you're going to make the team, you're going to have to make the team and with the mentality of going to war every night, because that's often the situation the Panthers find themselves in. That's their identity, and I don't think they're going to change that for anybody. And the ones who adapt to that best are the ones who are going to open the eyes of the staff. So I love seeing that from the younger players.
No doubt. And to think that they had a few and the fact is that these guys are now playing with some of these guys are playing with each other for the first time. I mean, Jack Devine is getting his first full training camp, and then there's just a whole mix of guys who are getting a second or third chance in the NHL. I mean, we're talking about the guys on PTOs like Tyler Motte, Noah Gregor, which we'll get more of them later. And then you see the experienced guys coming, creating a goal for the Florida Panthers to tie at 1-1, where it was a little bit of a setup to the middle from Wilmer Skoog. And it ends up on a stick lift, good intention by Gage Gonzalez. It knocks it into their own net, but just goes to show that when you throw the puck on the net and just other guys on the team that create high hockey IQ plays, you're sometimes you'll get rewarded in those. So you're seeing kind of that experience mixing in with the inexperienced guys that we saw on the night. I also thought that. Going back to Wilmer Skoog, I thought that he played with his hair on fire. I mean, I sometimes forget how speedy this guy is and how great his stick is. And I thought that Sandisville Menace didn't have a great game on Monday, but I thought he rebounded pretty well with how he played defensively. So him and Wilmer Skoog are two other guys that I thought played really well with their stick positionally sound for, especially on back checks.
Yeah, and these are guys who, while in the AHL level, they might be counted on to be top 6 players or goal scorers or offensive talents or power play guys. The NHL, especially on the roster like the Panthers, that's not really going to be their role. So coming into these games, being able to show that you're defensively sound, that you're going to get out there, you're going to forecheck hard, you're not going to make mistakes. You might have to crack the Panthers roster at some point as a fourth line winger, and you may get 8 to 10 minutes in the game. What are you going to do in those 8 to 10 minutes? It's going to impact winning. It might not always be scoring a goal. It might be a hard forecheck. It might be a good stick lift. It might be just neutralizing the other team's bottom six. There's a lot of ways that you can make your impact, and I think the guys who adapt to being able to do that off the puck, especially not just when they're scoring or not just when they have the puck on their stick. Those are the guys that are going to be impressive, and it's just about making good decisions a lot of the time. Preseason is it's sloppy. It's a lot of guys who don't have a ton of experience playing with each other, and it's always a weird mix of NHL regulars and rookies and journeymen in the AHL. And it can get kind of crazy. So I think when you're in these games, it's just about sound decision making, and the guys who are going to get into the lineup are the ones who are going to have the sort of the best positioning and best head on their shoulders, I guess, is what I would say. And I think Wilmer Skoog is a good guy to point out. Keep in mind, that's a guy who wasn't really highly thought of in the organization. He was an ECHL guy, kind of makes his way onto the Checkers roster a couple of years ago, put up a ton of goals, got really hot, ended up earning himself a contract, and he's now opening the eyes of the coaching staff and getting a chance here in preseason. So that's a good story, and that's everything the Panthers are about.
Yeah, and thankfully coming from a great program at Boston University, which is constantly a force in the NCAA, which that gives us an opportunity to also transition over to segment number 2, which we are going to talk some of the standouts and how these big name programs are also creating guys who can contribute to the championship organization known as the Florida Panthers. We'll discuss that and more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. And most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money, the all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy to use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization for your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off of your first year. That's 50% off of your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. Segment number 2 here on this Wednesday, October 1st edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Armando Velez here with Jacob Winans here on another edition of Winans Wednesday. And Amerant Bank Arena is not only isn't the only arena in the state of Florida with a new scoreboard. The Kia Center also has a new scoreboard this year. But I also want to give a lot of credit to all the Panther fans who were in attendance. Jacob, I know you weren't there on Tuesday, but I promise you that is probably the most red that I've ever seen in that crowd for this neutral site game. They're on the Panthers are on the power play, and the Lightning are holding it in the trapezoid to wait to get a line change and for the penalty to clear. And you hear the crowd booing, and that's a Panthers away game. So I'm very proud of this region and just the state of Florida on how far we've come. And even Paul Maurice spoke about it. So I'm very happy for this. But let's go right into just the guys who are coming into the mix for the first time versus the experienced guys and the nerves and the anxiety, which Paul Maurice fully explained in his post game about when I asked him about two standouts in the game, Ryan McAllister, who scored, and then Brandon Bussi, two guys who went to Western Michigan. They didn't go at the same time, but from a program that has been knocking on the door, finally won a national championship last year. We spoke about Jack Devine and Mike Benning winning a championship together multiple times at Denver, and then Wilmer Skoog just in the last segment from Boston University. And the fact that they're creating guys who are making impacts even if it's not on the NHL level, and those programs are truly helping the Florida Panthers also identify the talent for hopefully what their next wave is on cheaper deals. That something that we've been talking about all preseason, that this is what the next phase of the Florida Panthers is going to be heavily relied on.
Yeah, it's important. At this point, of course, you'll take a star player. You'd love to find a star player, diamond in the rough guy who's going to come in and light it up and be a huge contributor right away. But that's also not realistic for a team like the Panthers right now, who very limited draft resources. You've traded away a lot of futures to win now, and it's paid off. But the result of that is you don't get a ton of first round picks. Panthers don't have another one, I believe, until 2028. When you do have a first round pick, it's usually at the end of the first round, which that pick is almost a crapshoot, the same way it would be if you're picking in the second or third round. You don't have the luxury of time to develop guys when you do hit on a draft pick in some cases, because the salary cap comes for everybody, and you have to be able to have guys jump into the lineup relatively soon. And the timelines may not line up well when you have the first round picks who need 3 to 4 years to develop and into the full NHL product. So to counteract that, you definitely have to have internal development. You definitely have to have guys who have played at a level where championship hockey is required. Looking to the college ranks is huge right now for the Panthers. Having guys that are coming out of the NCAA, guys who have played championship hockey at the NCAA, late round draft picks who may have been overlooked, and they got to college and really developed their game in environments that are professional. Like Benning is a fantastic example. Jack Devine's a fantastic example. Mackie Samoskevich, I know he was a first round pick, but he's another guy who went the college route, developed his game there, got top 6 minutes, got a ton of ice time, got to play with a lot of guys who are also now NHL players. You can't always prioritize the development of some of these guys within your organization and within your minor league system, or if you graduate players to the NHL too early before they're ready. As Panther fans, we know exactly what that looks like with some of the prospects the Panthers have had in the past, that they rushed along, or guys who were accelerated too fast.
Henrik Borgstrom.
Henrik Borgstrom is a great example. He was the best player in college hockey, and ends up really being a dud at the NHL level. He just wasn't ready, and I think relying on some of that college development is huge, because it teaches players that they might not have to be the star on their team. They can carve out their role at the college level, and then those skills translate, and they have that sort of professional development at the college rank, which certainly looking like it may end up helping the Panthers. And you definitely see some of that in junior hockey too. But for the most part, junior hockey, the age ranges are a little different than college, and they come to the pros needing a little bit more AHL time than college players do, because they're just used to playing against a younger crowd. But I think the Panthers have done a great job of finding some diamond in the rough talents who can come in and fill a role, versus guys who need to come in and carry the load.
Which with this with the CFL NCAA agreement, I'm interested to see how much richer that talent in the NCAA is truly going to be. But let's actually talk about another player who didn't take the college route. He went to the route of the CHL, played for the Portland Winterhawks, a third round pick for the Florida Panthers just a few years ago, in Marek Alscher. I haven't really talked about him much during the preseason. I haven't really had to poke holes in his game, but I was just trying to kind of watch him a little bit, because I noticed that I haven't really said anything. But the amount of times I saw him really activating into the play, and then still being able to not lose his coverage when he does get back to the blue line, I thought that although he is a little bit he although he he's not the biggest guy, he does play a lot. He does play big for his size, and he's not afraid to also get to the boards, knowing that there is communication for a forward to stay back, and he still, like I said, doesn't lose his coverage. So that's a player that I kind of want to pinpoint a little bit. That and going back to the quote that Paul Maurice said about the anxiety versus guys coming in for the first time versus guys who have been here for a few years now, which Alscher's now spent a little bit of time in Charlotte, and we don't see. It's obvious. It's obvious that we don't see those nerves, as like we mentioned, a Jack Devine getting that delay of game penalty. Nobody was near him, and then just trying to flip the puck with the backhand out, and then that that kind of hurts the Panthers' chances of at least forcing overtime. Although the results don't really matter as far as preseason.
Yeah, the fact that you haven't had to talk about Marek Alscher probably means he's doing his job right.
Yeah,
He's a defensive defenseman. He's not going to be provided. He's not going to be counted on to provide offense. That's not to say he can't. The Panthers they're not a team that's going to be offense first from the blue line. They've got a handful of guys on the blue line who definitely could put up Norris Trophy caliber offensive numbers if they wanted to focus their entire game on that. We've seen Aaron Ekblad at that level. We've seen the fact that Gustav Forsling, if you really wanted to, if you wanted to commit to offense, that's a guy who could have 60, 70 points, run a power play, and focus his game on that. And that's just not the way the Panthers operate. Marek Alscher, there's a lot of his game that reminds me of a smaller Nico Mikkola.
yeah.
And you just watch his game and you just think that's a Paul Maurice player. He knows when to activate. He's got a really good sense about jumping up into the rush when it's time, and then also getting back. He skates well for a guy his size. He's not huge, definitely a little bit smaller than Mikkola, but plays that sort of long, rangy, sort of big coverage type of game on the back end, and I think he's the perfect partner for a smaller offensive defenseman like Mike Benning. I think if they both end up in Charlotte this year, that could be a terrific pair. Alscher and Benning could be fantastic, but I really like a lot about his game. It's just solid. It's sound. He doesn't take a lot of risk, doesn't take a lot of chances, does his job, and it's a quick first out, and that's the biggest thing is get the puck, make a good first pass, and that's really all the Panthers need most of the time with how dynamic their forwards are and the fact that they play the dump and chase style. You don't really need to do a whole lot more. Simple game. Hit the body, get the puck, quick first out, and I think he does that pretty well.
Yeah, and the Panthers will have to possibly figure things out if Nico Mikkola is to walk come next offseason, because I've already looked at the Panthers contracts with how many are go beyond next year, 14 of them. And if it were to be a 104 million salary cap, like as the projected, the average amount of AAV on average for 10 to sign 10 players is $2.3 million right now for the Panthers. It's not a lot, and Nico Mikkola is up for a raise. So as of right now, I'm saying that the Panthers likely don't re-sign him. So they're gonna need to at least graduate someone there, and maybe even put the situation where Dmitry Kulikov elevates up at least temporarily, and they have a fully young third pair, or at least sign a guy to a vet minimum again, just like Jeff Petrie this year, and help and at least be paired with someone coming up the ranks for the first time playing full NHL minutes, whether it is a Mike Benning on the right side or Marek Alscher, who's a left-handed shot defensive defenseman who, like you said, is very timely with his activations into the rush. So lots of things to navigate, and this is really trying to forecast a year from now in a way, but what we will see, and hopefully Marek Alscher has another great year in Charlotte this coming year for him. But we're going to transition over to segment number 3, where roster cuts will be coming, but one Panther who is on a PTO did return to the lineup on Tuesday. We'll discuss his chances of making the team. We'll discuss that more next here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets across the app. And it makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding in on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Once again, visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Segment 3 here on this Wednesday, October 1st edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. Armando Velez here with Jacob Winans. And Jacob, we're saying October. We are experiencing the best sports month of the year. I'm very excited, my friend. I hope I'm sure you're just as excited.
Yeah, man. It's that time of year. We got basketball coming back, hockey coming back, football's in full swing. Talking about October, I mean, we've got this Saturday coming up, Miami FSU. I know we'll be chirping at each other a little bit about that, but this is our time. This is when things get fun. And you know, we haven't talked about it together on an episode yet, but I know the Panthers come in with a very different outlook and very different expectations from a lot of people right now, given the injuries to Kachuk, the injury to Barkov. Definitely devastating hit to the team, but if we're being honest, this is still an organization that's in a great position. Hockey's in a great spot right now in South Florida. We're blessed. Coming off of back-to-back Stanley Cups, it should still be a fun year, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, and I am excited for the opportunity that other guys are going to create for themselves, because it just opens that up. I mean, we have an idea of what the top line is going to be with and the second and the third line moving up one for what they and also Evan Rodriguez is expected to be back with the Florida Panthers hopefully in the next preseason game when the Florida Panthers do take on the Tampa Bay Lightning. So you probably won't be seeing Jesper Boquist taking that center position with Mackie Samoskevich once Thursday comes. But also, Paul Maurice did confirm to the media after the game that roster cuts will be coming sometime on Wednesday or Thursday. And also, it took him a long time to come out of the locker room after the game. So maybe there was a big conversation, a few one-on-ones, maybe on game breakdowns, and say, hey, maybe we're gonna send you down. So maybe those conversations have already happened. I'm only speculating here, so I can't necessarily confirm if that was necessarily what's going on. Also, a little birdie told me that they may be going to the theme parks during their off day on Wednesday. So yeah, that they might be having a little bit of off the ice fun activities, which you got to have fun in the middle of training camp. Also, Paul Maurice even says it throughout the year. If you're not having fun, what are you here for? So that's another thing that I'm happy for the Panthers. What young guys or even the older guys who are going to get some team bonding outside of it. But like I said, roster cuts are coming. Tyler Motte returned to the lineup for the Panthers, really playing up in the zone, especially on the PK. So he's used he was used in a lot of those different situations for the Cats. And I mean, yeah, I think he truly has a leg up. I mean, based on not only his experience, but the fact that he plays a premium position in hockey. he wasn't necessarily a big standout for the Panthers, but I did think that he supported the defensemen well when Tampa Bay was getting on their forecheck. Although there were times where I saw Mikolas Havorka clear it down the middle, which I prefer not to. I prefer them clear it to the half walls because that creates a little bit of danger around the net. But I thought that for missing almost a week, I thought that Tyler Motte still once again has a leg up on being the 14th forward for the Cats.
Yeah, I like his game, and he plays a simple style. He doesn't need a ton of ice time to stay ready. He's a guy who's kind of been in this role. He's been the extra forward in a lot of stops. You know what you're going to get from him, and then when it comes to the Panthers' fourth line, as good as Nosek, Greer, Gadjevich were last year, obviously the Panthers are down Nosek for a while, so you assume it's going to be Cunnin, Gadjo, and Greer. As good as that line is at what they do, Gadjo tends to miss a few games here and there. The way he plays is just so physical. He gets banged up and the fights, and he misses some time every year, and that's totally what you expect from a gritty forward like that. You got to have some depth there. Who's going to come in and play a very, very simple game. Tyler Motte's game is very, very simple. He's a straight line skater. He's a hard forechecker. He's got a good set of wheels, and he's got playoff experience. He's been very good in a couple of his previous stops. I know he was a really good player and valuable addition to Rangers team that was super competitive in the playoffs, and he carved out a role there for himself. And he's a guy that's pretty well liked everywhere he's gone because of the way he plays the game. It's simple. It's straight line, north south. That sounds a lot like Paul Maurice hockey. So I think Tyler Motte's got a real chance. I like the way the Panthers went with some of these PTO or short-term tryout type deals. I like the way they prioritize the players they did. I love the way Motte looks. I love the way Noah Gregor looks. Serious emphasis on speed, serious emphasis on forechecking. I think he's got a good shot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be some between those two guys, especially for the final spots for the Panthers. And excuse me, I don't expect them as far as the next round of cuts. I don't expect either of them to be cut for the team. I also expect Jack Stanika to possibly be not cut in the next round today or tomorrow. So maybe he will get a final chance for the Panthers, as he was outstanding. He was played both ends of the back-to-back on Monday and Tuesday. So those are going to be some of those main training camp battles. We are under the impression that for the most part the defense is set for as far as the 7 guys that they are going to be bringing in, but the forwards is actually the main the bigger of question marks, especially center, because you don't know if they're going to keep Luke Cunnin to begin with as that fourth line center. Do they shift him to wing? And like you mentioned, if Gadjevich does miss some time, do they put Tyler Motte on the wing, or do they shift Cunnin to wing, even though he's playing center right now? I did mention that the faceoff percentage for Cunnin wasn't necessarily great when he got to Columbus, although it was a small sample size for him. So we will see how the Panthers truly navigate from there. So look out for those battles, Panther fans, and look for those 3, especially of who is going to be possibly the final ones to battle it out for this Panthers lineup come opening night, which we are 6 days away from the time of that this recording drops. So can't wait, friend. But Jacob, I want to thank you so much once again for joining me on another edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Tell everybody where they can follow you online, my friend.
Yep, you can follow me on X at JakeW_8. And if I'm not mistaken, the next time we record, we're talking regular season hockey.
Yes, we will be, as we will be breaking down Panthers versus Blackhawks on opening night. So, Jacob, thank you so much as always, and see you next week, my friend.
I can't wait. Thanks for having me.
And if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey, Flip Livingstone and Steel Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Jacob Winans, and you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're your team every day.